welcome back to Beyond the Trailhead. We're taking a little bit of a twist today with a new type of business. It's not a new business, but it's a creative business that I thought I really wanted to have on the pod. And we have Katie Stylos with Hyalite Designs here. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Well, I found your artwork on Instagram and TikTok, and I just kind of fell in love with the stuff that you create. And so me being a photographer and videographer and stuff like that, I love the stuff that you made and the way that you make it. And so I'll put some examples on the screen and I'll let you explain it all. But it's really, really cool. And I'll probably put a couple of your reels on the screen too, so people can see it. And if you're listening, then you can check it out in the description because it is incredible. But want to have you on and just talk a little bit about who you are, the process of it, and really how people can, at the end of this whole thing, how people can get your artwork, because it is super, super cool. Anytime I'm in the mountains, I'm just like, oh, I need to get these mountains made up into to what you make. So Katie, I won't spoil it for everybody. I'll let you kind of handle the rundown on who you are and what you do. So without further ado, go for it.
Yeah, gosh, thank you so much for all those really nice words and your compliments. I'm blushing. But yeah, my name is Katie Stylos, and I'm an artist, a graphic designer, and a professional climber. And my business is called Hyalite Designs. And Hyalite is actually it's a type of opal. But my business is named after the canyon that is near where I live, Hyalite Canyon. And
Okay.
that's where I do a ton of my climbing. And it's just kind of a place that means a lot to me. And so, and honestly inspires a lot of my work. So that's kind of where that came from. But yeah, I think my work and what Highlight Designs really revolves around is being outside and being inspired by the places that we love to go and the places that we love to experience. And so my work, the main part of the work that I do is making art out of old climbing rope, and specifically the idea of reusing something that would be thrown in the trash otherwise.
Yeah.
And so as a climber, like, we use these ropes obviously as our lifelines and something that connects us to the people that we are with, being outside and being in the mountains. And then over time, you can't use it anymore for safety reasons. And so um, a lot of the time you have kind of this sentimental value towards rope, and then it
Yeah.
just, like, you don't really want to throw it away, and then it, like, sits in your garage and you're like, what am I going to do with this? And so um, yeah, so I kinda had that and started making, and there's a whole long story of how I got into it, but anyways, now I'm taking that climbing rope, people donate the climbing rope, and I make art out of climbing rope, so it's not going in the trash,
Yeah.
and now we can hang it on our wall and enjoy it for years to come. And then the other side of my business is doing graphic design, which includes logos and pamphlets and magazine stuff and
Yeah.
everything you can think of, that kind of thing. So that's just like a very quick kind of gist of that.
Yeah. So have you always been an entrepreneur, or were you working like a job before? What was the first, yeah, without the graphic design part of it, like what was the first time, or how did you just go, hey, I'm just going to start cutting up ropes and making it into art? Because that's not something that people just naturally do, I think.
Yeah, totally. I would definitely not call myself an entrepreneur. I would call myself very driven,
Yeah.
and a definite, like, a goal setter and a go-getter. I've always been that way, and I grew up actually in the horse world, and I was a
Okay.
competitive horse rider, and I worked really hard for years with horses, and was very driven that way. And when I got out of that, I kind of got into climbing. And then I was kind of in a place in my life where I was like working at the climbing gym and not really sure what I was going to do. And knew that working at the climbing gym was maybe not something I wanted to do for
Yeah.
forever. And my dad was in the military for my entire life. And so he had the GI Bill, and it was gonna expire when I turned 26, and at the time, I think I was 22 or something like that, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, if you wanna use this, you got to do something with it kind of. And I was like, okay. So I went to the local university here in Bozeman, Montana State, and opened up a pamphlet and I started flipping through it. And I was like, what career could work well with wanting to travel and kind of make up my own
Yeah.
schedule and working with people, but also something that was kind of challenging. And I landed on graphic design, so I applied for school and got into it and did 4 years of graphic design. But I knew right when I had gone into school that I wanted to work for myself and I
Yeah.
wanted to start a business. And so literally, um my sophomore year, I registered my business with the state and I immediately started picking up anything that I could, and working just like easy little tiny jobs while I was in school.
Yeah.
So by the time hopefully I got out of school, I wasn't expecting to have my business be full blown happening,
Yeah.
but I wanted it to at least be on the ground running.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to be registering my business and starting this on the day that I was graduating.
Yeah.
Like I knew what I wanted to do and I wanted to try to get
Yeah.
that going before. Um, and so obviously the graphic design was the direction I was going, but I wasn't expecting the rope art to be as big as it is.
Yeah.
And while I was working in the climbing gym, there's a ton of climbing rope and we're constantly changing the ropes out. And we'd have like a big pile in the back of just like old used climbing rope. And
Yeah.
some people would come in and use it and for different projects or make like, dog leashes, belts, bags, stuff like that. But there was a gal I was working with who was doing something really similar. She was
Mhm.
making rugs out of them. And I was like, well, I want to try to do that. So I kind of picked it up and was made one for myself. And then over time, she decided that she didn't want to do it anymore, kind of gave me her blessing. And then
Yeah.
it's evolved from there, to where now I don't make rugs at all, because they don't last, but now it's all just wall art specifically. And it's kind of just totally blossomed from there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really expecting that to kind of be the majority of my business, but it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
That
mean, it's been a bit of a journey of not really knowing what direction it was gonna go, and then really the rope art's kinda taken over.
Yeah. No, it like when I watch some of your videos where you're putting it together, I'm like, okay, then I'm an artsy kind of person, but it's like it's like a jigsaw puzzle when I see like, okay, what color, where it goes, how does this go here? And I'm like, I'm sure you've got a system down now, but when you started doing it, were you already, because you had that blessing from the person who was doing the rugs and stuff before, did you kind of already know what you were pricing your stuff at, or did you kind of have to work to get your prices to where it is? Because I know every art piece is completely different, right? And so some of them
Mhm.
take longer, the sizes are different. And I think as entrepreneurs, when you're creating a business, or and especially when you're an artist, it's hard to really sometimes put a value on, like, each one is your baby, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the pricing has probably been one of the hardest parts of this.
Yeah.
Um, Pricing artwork is so tight-lipped. I really and, like, one of the things I remember being in school and pushing we it was a class on the history of graphic
Mhm.
design. And I pushed really hard. I'm like, "I'd really like to do a whole segment on kind of the history of pricing design work."
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's not a thing." I was like, "What do you mean that's not a thing?" I was like, "People have been charging for hand painted
Yeah.
signs and all sorts of stuff for years." It's like, "Why?" And there's literally nothing on it. And so my first piece that I ever did that I decided to sell,
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, I don't know what to charge for this." So I just threw out a number. I think the first piece I did, was a 20 by 30.
Yeah.
I think I charged $250,
Yeah.
and I put it on Facebook Marketplace just because I was like, I don't have I was like, I'm not gonna put this on my website. I don't have enough traffic for this. I don't have enough people on my social media. I don't even know if I want this to be kind of the direction of my social media. So I just put it on Marketplace as almost like an anonymous like artist out in the
Yeah.
world. And it sold to like somebody in Oregon. And I was like, cool,
Yeah.
okay. And so from there, I started to kind of keep that pricing because it worked. And then eventually, like, kind of slowly started to raise it. But then I went to an art gallery in
Hmm.
town and I was selling some work through the art gallery, and the gal sat me down. I mean, granted, the gallery's taking 40% of the sale, right? So they take a pretty big percentage. And she sat me down and she was like, Katie, your work is way undervalued. Like, for us, both of us to be like making money in this, we have to raise the prices.
Yeah.
And so having a professional in the fine art industry be able to like talk to me in a sense that was like, we need to make this profitable for you as the
Yeah.
artist, but also for me as the
Yeah.
salesperson. And that was very helpful. But the thing is about art is you just don't know. You're kind of just going off of like maybe somebody's willing to pay for this,
Yeah.
maybe they're not. And now all of my work, it's obviously we're X amount of years in, we're like 6 or 7 years in now, but now it's all charged by the square inch.
Yeah.
And then depending on if it's a custom piece, I charge a custom design fee and extra
Yeah.
charges for multiple edits within the custom
Okay.
design. So it's evolved from like, okay, this person's asking for 6 edits
Yeah.
on this custom thing. I gotta charge for my time for
Yeah.
that.
No, exactly.
And so it's all been a huge learning process of being like, okay, I've lost money on this commission because I've done more edits than my time was worth,
Yeah.
kind of thing, to now I have more of an understanding of where I'm at. But it's very tight lit, it's taken a long
Yeah.
time for me to figure out what's worthy of like pricing. But on top of that, I've really wanted to make sure that like, I'm not obviously think the price, for example, the first piece I sold, 20 by 30, $250.
Yeah.
Now a 20 by 30, you're looking at around $1,100.
Yeah.
And so obviously the price has gone way up, but at the same time, I've had to consider the fact that like, what is my time worth? What am I spending on
Yeah.
my website? What am I spending on my education that's going into
Yeah.
this, that's continuing to go into this? What about my materials? What about the shipping? Because
Yeah.
shipping is really expensive for the art. But then on top of that, if you were to be a painter, you can paint the piece, you spend all
Hmm.
this time and energy painting the piece, and then you take a professional photo of the piece, and then you can continue to get piece or
Yeah.
prints of a piece for however forever, right? For
Yeah.
however long you want to sell that, you'll
Yeah.
continue to get money. Every single piece I make is one of a kind.
Yeah.
It's not possible to replicate, and the price needs to reflect that.
Yeah.
Like, every piece that goes out in the world is 100% unique. Like, even if I were to take a photo of it, you're not gonna get the effect
Yeah.
that is a textured wrote piece through a photo.
Yeah.
And so the price reflects the fact that everything is 100% unique.
That's cool. I'm glad that you figured out, because I literally, my wife and I were at a friend's house who's opening up their own business, and we had this whole thing about pricing and stuff, and
Mhm.
we were like, we were talking about it's better to start something than to be perfect. And they were like, I was
Totally.
like, just start it and you'll start to figure out, you can't get everything 100%. You'll start to figure out kind of your pricing model, what works. It's easier to go down in price than it is to come up in price. So like for you to go up is great, because I know when I did, and I still do, but when I do wedding photography, my first photo shoot, when I finally started doing pictures, I was like, well, I'll charge them $50 for pictures, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wow, they
Mhm.
pay me $50 to take pictures. This is crazy. All right, we're going out for dinner. And then I'm like, okay, if I want to do this for a living, now I know I've got to be charging, seven or eight, $10,000 for
Right.
an event and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So,
exactly.
um, and you made a good point too. Like for your thing, you can't just do prints. Like you
Mhm.
can't duplicate it. I mean, like you said, you could, but you're not gonna have the texture and the memories behind it and everything else. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess this is just a random question, but like, what's the largest piece that you've ever done?
Yeah, so the largest single piece I've ever done, I'm pretty sure was 48 inches by 36 inches.
Okay.
Anything kind of above that starts to get too heavy.
Okay.
So climbing rope weighs a lot,
Yeah.
and even that I've really had to figure out how do I send this to somebody and how the heck
Yeah.
do they hang it on their wall.
Yeah.
So my husband, he's been very helpful in like designing pieces with like
Yeah.
a French cleat on the back, like
Yeah.
hanging systems that work really well for something that weighs a lot of,
Yeah.
a pound
Yeah.
pounds. So, but the largest piece I've ever done from there, I've started to split it up into what you call a triptych, which
Mhm.
essentially is 3 individual pieces that make up one large piece.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the size of it, but it was something like, I wanna say it was maybe like 40 inches tall by like 90 inches wide
Yeah.
or something like that. It was quite
Yeah.
big. And then you're working on 3 individual pieces
Yeah.
that create one giant image. Um, and so that it's been a while since I've done something that big, mostly because I've been moving around my
Yeah.
studio space a ton, and I'm not really in a place to make something that big because it takes a ton of room to like
Yeah.
lay out the pieces. Like I have like pictures of me like on the floor with the boards and
Yeah.
like drawing and everything because everything's hand drawn onto the boards
Okay.
before the rope goes on, and I need like a big space to
Yeah.
be able to do that. So
That's cool. So if someone's listening and they have like a corporate boardroom or an outdoor store or something like that, they need to go to your site and get you to make them something cool and custom. Because I know for my photography, I've had like the Atlanta skyline printed,
Mhm.
like it was a pano that I did. And it was six panels, I think, and it was, man, I mean, it was probably about 12 or 13 feet wide by
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 feet tall. And I'm just like, the picture that they ordered was more expensive than the picture that they paid me for the photo shoot. So,
Right.
you know,
Totally.
so people don't understand how much the cost, like you said, shipping and everything else is,
Mhm.
the art part of it, making it for what it is. I think the thing that you create is so cool for, not just the climbing space, but of course, like the whole outdoor industry, because the mountains that you make and then the custom artwork that I've seen you do um, is just so cool. I guess
Thank you.
a question always ask everybody is like, is there like an oh crap moment that I know you kind of alluded to pricing a little bit, but was there anything like that's a crazy story where it's just like, man, this absolutely sucked, or you wasted money on something or something like that you're just like, but then it ended up for the better, or maybe it wasn't for the better, maybe it's just an oh man, I'll never do that again.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I feel like I've tried to be very careful
Yeah.
to not have this moment where I'm like, "Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I'm about to, like, ruin this entire
Yeah.
thing." Um, but so with that being said, I think my biggest moment isn't necessarily financially, but it's
Yeah.
more mentally on the burnout scale.
Hmm.
And so I've experienced, like, extreme burnout in my past,
Hmm.
and to the point where, like, I don't even do the things that I used to love to do that used to bring me joy, and so I've had moments in my business where I'll go really hard, and then I'm like, "Wow, I'm really starting to hate this."
Yeah.
And that's kind of the "oh crap" moment where I remember having, like, an entire spreadsheet of all these people that I've committed to do
Yep.
commission work for, and I've started working on pricing and sizing, and it goes on and on and on and on, and I'm just saying yes and yes and yes and yes and
Uh-huh.
yes, and then I'm getting to the point where I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is literally not possible.
Yeah.
I somehow have all of this, like, years of work and no time for any of this, no energy for any of this, and then the quality of my work started to decline,
Yeah.
where I'm, like, looking at the design work and looking at it through a professional eye of being like, "The composition of this piece is bad."
Yeah.
Like, "The color theory in this piece is bad."
Yeah.
Like, "This is not work I'm proud of. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna put this piece that this person just paid money for in my portfolio."
Yeah.
Like, I don't wanna claim that piece,
Yeah.
and that was definitely, like, kind of an oh shit moment of, like, you're gonna ruin this for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna ruin this success, and you're gonna ruin the relationship you've created with your clients because you're not taking care of, like, your burnout, your mental
Yeah.
headspace, and where you're at, um, artistically,
Yeah.
creatively, to the point where you're going to completely just
Yeah.
demolish your business, because people are going to start looking at your work and being like, yeah, her work 6 months ago was really good. And now all of a
Yeah.
sudden it feels like she's just pumping out shitty designs.
Yeah.
And that's not what I wanted. So then I had to go back and email every single one of those people and be like, hey, I know I've committed to this. I can't do it. I'm
Yeah.
one person. This is where I'm at, and it's something that I've done like twice now. And I
Yep.
look back and I'm like, I have to figure out how to stop it from happening earlier, because
Yeah.
it feels terrible when it
Yeah.
happens. And I got to be careful because
Yeah.
it's really bad. So,
So how did you go from being burned out, or are you still kind of, because I know I'm a very yes person,
mhm.
right? And my wife's always like, you need to say no more. And I'm like, no, but
Yep.
I'm like,
Well,
no,
I
if
have
I
been.
can do this, then I know I can do it. And she's like, especially when we were like super busy with weddings, when we
Yeah.
were like 100% of our income was from the weddings and stuff like that. It was like, okay, I'm doing 3 weddings on a weekend. I've only had X amount of sleep. And I'm like, okay, I have to turn away work at some point. So do you now just kind of say, okay, I can only do, have you gotten to a flow where it's like, okay, I have this amount of time, you have to say no? Because it's great to say no, because then it kind of means like, if you can kind of go, oh, maybe I can raise my prices more now because I'm
Right.
so in demand, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I think it's more of just a feeling
Yeah.
of like, sometimes I'm really motivated, and when I'm really
Yeah.
motivated, I'm like, "Let's go. Let's get some work done. I wanna be in my studio. I wanna be creating." And I'll get like, I'm like, "Oh my god, I have all these
Yeah.
ideas." And when I get the ideas, that's when I get really psyched on like doing a big drop.
Yeah.
And so like, to tangent, most of my work, I do a lot of commission work, but a lot of my work, I make a bunch of work in advance and I sell at like a specific date and time, and I call
Okay.
that like my drop. And when I'm feeling really artistically motivated, that's when I do a drop
Oh,
usually.
cool.
Um, and it's because it's like I have all these ideas and I just want to create.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's the moments where I'm like doing something and like the last thing I want to go do right now is sit in my studio. The
Yeah.
last thing I want to do right now is be designing this piece, or I just need to get this done. I just need
Yeah.
to get this done. I need to draw this out and send it to the client. Like that's usually an indicator of like, okay, you're starting to get burned out. And so I really try to find the balance of being like, right now we're working. And because I like, my work can ebb and flow and I work for myself, right? I can like kind of make some money in advance and take a little time off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's go climb for a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
let's go do some hiking. Let's do a backpacking trip. Let's come back and do some work. And so I don't ever see myself working, the same hours every single day.
Yeah.
It's more of just feeling of like, okay, this week we're going to work really hard. We're
Yeah.
going to get a ton of hours in, and then next week I'm going to take a little time off and I'm going to relax and I'm going to go do this, and then the next week I'm going to do kind of half
Yeah.
workload, and so it's more just feeling of like where I'm at. But with that being said, I have the luxury of doing that now. That wasn't necessarily the case earlier
Yeah.
on when you're just trying to get things going and off the ground. You're just kind of taking whatever you can. You're always saying yes. And I
Yeah.
feel like you're talking about being a yes person. Oftentimes you have to be a yes person when you're getting your business
Yeah.
off the ground, because you can't say no. Like that, like so much of business is word of mouth
Yeah.
and creating community. And so you have to say yes to create those
Yeah.
connections. And so early on, I feel like that hard work and that yes mentality like can foster burnout. And so you have to be extra
Yeah.
careful. And I have a little bit of the luxury now to kind of say yes to projects I'm psyched about and no to projects that I'm not inspired by, which
Yeah.
makes a big difference too.
That's cool. I love that. Like, you sound like you do exactly what I do, where it's like, okay, you you get inspired and then you just go. And then sometimes, like,
Yeah.
now that my wife does social media and everything else now, where she went to Georgia Tech for technology and everything else. And so she laughs, like, she's like, now I'm doing like comedy videos. Like, who would have thought? But now that she
Totally.
has to edit videos, she goes, man, now I understand why sometimes it takes you a while to get sitting down and doing a video, because you have to be inspired or motivated to go, okay, oh, I've got it. Now I've got an idea in my head of how I want the edit to go,
Mhm.
or how I want these pictures to be edited for this one client and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have that luxury of it when you run your own business, but it's also your downfall because you have that flexibility, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
I should be getting this done. And but like my friends who have full-time jobs, we just had this discussion again last night. We were talking like, hey, you have no idea how it is when you're like waiting for the next project to come in to pay the bills and the stress of it versus just like, oh, I know this week I get paid this much every week and then I get a bonus if
Yes.
I do well, you know?
Right.
And so it has its ups and downs. That's what I'm telling my daughter is like, hey, and when you're going to do marketing and stuff like that, it's gonna be great, but you're gonna have these creative blocks that are just like, you've just got to fight through. Like you said, go and do something you love to do. Like I texted her today and she's like, yeah, I'm at the park and I went for a 5-mile hike, just walking
Nice.
around. And now I feel
Yeah.
fresh. Now I'm going to go do my homework because now I'm like, my brain's kind of like back to center. So
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, that's cool. So, I guess my next question is, something that's changed your mind since you've launched your company. Like, now that you do this, what's one thing that you would say if you were talking to your younger self or earlier self, you would say, "Oh, you should have done this at the beginning, and it would have been better right now."
Totally. Yeah, I think one of my biggest regrets is I wish I had established my brand
Uh-huh.
earlier on and stuck to it. And I don't know if this is just because I'm a designer, but and like can't make up my mind about what I want my business to look like,
Yeah,
but this I wish I had like I wish I had the vision to know that in my 2nd year of design school, I was not gonna be able to design as good of a branding package for myself as I would have at the end of my
yeah,
4 years of design school, which that seems so insane to say. You're like, "Well, of course you'd be better."
yeah,
But, I was like, "I just wanna get this going." So I, like, made a crappy logo and whatever, and then had it. And then, post school when I was like, "All right, it's time to, like, do this full time," I ended up redesigning everything and had to change everything out. And then even now I'm like, "Oh, I kinda wanna redesign everything again."
yeah,
And that's just like I wish I had just stuck to the guns of like, let's just do one thing at a certain point when we feel good about it.
yeah.
And now I just feel like I haven't really committed to how I want the brand to feel.
Uh-huh.
And it's like kind of slowly ever changing. And I have regrets about that because then you spend extra money on your marketing, right?
Yeah,
On your business cards, on the way that your website looks, on merch, stuff like
yeah,
that. And the fact that it's like I want it to be incredibly recognizable when people see it and when people see my work. And it's just kind of been little tiny changes all the time. And I don't feel like I've really committed to anything. And it's really biting me in the butt now.
yeah.
Like I've done a better job with my branding, but there's still like I've never fully committed to my brand
Hmm.
as much as I've committed to clients' brands,
Yeah,
and, like, been like, "Here are the guidelines to your brand.
yeah,
This is the no, this
yeah,
is the yes. Like, you're never using this type of face on this type of photo." Like, I never have done that for myself, and now I'm
yeah,
dealing with the fallout of that.
yeah,
So, I wish I had done that earlier on, but not as early as I originally did it,
yeah.
kinda thing.
I think it's
Yeah.
people who, if they're in construction, you go to their house and
Mhm.
they have so many construction projects. So the last thing
Yeah.
you want to do is do the work for like, people who do our social media managers. They might manage social media for channels that have hundreds of thousands of followers or millions of followers, but their social media has a couple hundred, right?
Right.
And then people go, well,
Mhm.
you don't have enough social media followers, and yet you're telling me you want to manage my social media, and you're like, but you don't understand, like I don't have time to grow my own social media because I'm
Right.
growing other people's social media, So,
Yes, 100%.
yeah, so don't be so hard on yourself because I think everybody's like that. I'm totally like that with
Yeah,
like the last thing I want to do is take pictures I love my family, but the
right.
last thing I want to do is do family portraits,
Right.
or do like a funny video because I don't want to edit video more because I've just been sitting editing video or taking pictures and stuff like that. So, but that's
Totally.
good because that's literally what we had. I feel like I'm having a deja vu from the conversation I had with my friends last night with their company because
Nice.
we're trying to tell them like like we had talked about earlier, like it's better to start it than to be perfect. Better to be done than perfect, and then you can always tweak it. Yes, you still want to be excellent in what you create and everything else, but you can't. Perfection is like, it's impossible to be perfect, right? But
Yeah,
you can at least
totally.
get started at that 80%, and then that 20% can come um, as you're kind of designing and stuff like that. I'm going to ask you
Totally.
one last question, um, and then from there, I kind of want to go into just kind of get to know a little bit more about you, and then kind of where people can find you and stuff like that. And I didn't know you did graphic design. So what kind of stuff do you do for graphic design? Like, what is your what is your like niche for that?
Yeah, I really love creating branding packages for
Mhm.
people. So logos, social media icons, color palettes, typography,
Okay.
um, fonts is what typography means
Yeah.
if that didn't fly with people. But I love helping people create brands, small businesses specifically. I've done all sorts of logos. People can see kind of my portfolio online. I'm actively working on updating it.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, the but I do like everything from I've done t-shirts for different
Uh-huh.
companies, I've done hats, I've done posters, I do horse show, they're like horse show like welcome pamphlets with like the ride
Uh-huh.
times and stuff like that, and basically pretty much everything you can think
Yeah.
of, like booths for expos, big signage for expo
Yep.
stuff, vehicle signage, all sorts of stuff. But the stuff that I really love to do is like logos and branding.
Yeah.
I would say the majority, I would say like it ebbs and flows. So obviously it can get really cold where I'm at, which is in
Yeah.
Bozeman, Montana. So I'll tend to do a little bit more design work, try to do that in the winter months versus like summer months. I like being outside in the studio because
Yeah.
it's not heated. So I would say roughly things kind of work out to be like 30% design work, 70% rope work, and then
Yeah.
things kind of ebb and flow depending on the year.
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. I was like, oh, she does that too. So want to know. Okay, so I guess my last question before we go into our kind of lightning round to get to know you a little bit more is
Yeah.
what's the weirdest or most unexpected place your product has ever shown up?
Oh my gosh. This one's a new, like a koozie,
Okay.
like, it's like a picture of the rope art on a koozie.
Okay.
That was very unexpected, but somebody was like, I love this." I'm like,
Yeah.
and to me, like a photo of the work does not express the work at all
Yeah.
because it's like every single piece of rope has memory,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like this rope went up Denali and then it did this ice climb in Colorado and then it did this crazy rescue and then for a lot of years it was a tow rope in the back of my truck, and
Yeah.
so everything has memories. And so to like take a picture of it, you just don't get this like
Yeah.
connection with the piece, and so I was like, "Sure, I would never want a photo of that, but sure." And they're, like, super psyched on it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was very kinda like a recent surprise that people wanted that. So, yeah.
So in your studio, like, because I do soldering. I don't know why I said it like that, but I've done soldering before and stuff like that. So, and I always see in your
Yeah.
videos, like, you're cutting the rope. So, like,
Mhm.
you have proper ventilation
Mhm.
and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like people get really all up in arms about the
Yeah.
ventilation, and I've just stopped trying to, like, fight the trolls
Yeah.
on it, but
Yeah.
which is fair, people have concerns, and
Yeah.
that's fine, and I get it, which is 'cause climbing rope is made of mostly nylon, which is
Yeah.
plastic, and so when it burns, it aerosolizes, and it's really dangerous,
Yeah.
which is fair. So I wear a full mask with, like, specific
Yeah.
filters that actually filter that out, and then my studio, like I said, is not heated.
Yeah.
It's totally open on one side, and so air is coming in, and then I have a fan system that pulls that smoke away. So there's obviously big
Yeah.
ventilate or like air within
Yeah.
the space itself. And then I have fans, two fans that like pull the smoke
Yeah.
outside of the building, and then I'm wearing the mask on top of it. With that being said, in the videos, oftentimes I'll take the mask off
Yeah.
just to do
That's
the
what I was
video.
gonna ask. I was like, I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure you just take it off for video.
Yeah, Mostly because it's like, it's anybody that's trying to get a small business off the ground, and maybe it's not even small. Anybody who is on social media
Yeah.
understands that the algorithm is the worst thing in the world and
Yeah.
it's constantly changing. The one thing that is consistent with the algorithm is it does better when it sees your face.
Yeah.
And so, um, I choose to take the mask off when I'm doing like small microsecond videos,
Yeah.
for reels and things like that, and then I put the mask back
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a fun it doesn't smell good, it smells like burning plastic,
Yeah.
so it's you wanna have a mask on anyways, but it's a really good indicator because it smells so bad. If you could smell it, the ventilation isn't good.
Yeah.
So, even when I don't wear the mask, you can't smell it because the vent is so good, but I
Okay.
wear the mask as cautionary.
That's cool. I'm surprised. Like I've been
Yeah.
to enough third world countries and smelt enough like burning garbage pits and stuff like
Yes.
that, doing a bunch of
Mhm.
different work that I'm just like, man, I couldn't imagine smelling that the whole time. And I was like, no, I'm sure she's got it properly ventilated. So, well, awesome. So, if people are looking for Hyalite or to get you for an art piece or even graphic design, where can they find you? How can they reach you?
Yeah, so, I'm on Instagram and my handle's at Hyalite, HYALITE_designs. I really I don't love business communication through DM.
Mhm.
And so if people want to contact me, they can email me at highlightdesigns@gmail.com. And you can find me on my website, highlightdesigns.com. And there's multiple forms there that people
Yeah.
can fill out, whether that's rope art or wanting to work with me for design work. So, but everything's under Highlight Designs. You can find me there. But I will say, if you try to contact me through Instagram, there's a good chance I'm not gonna see it and I'm not gonna respond.
Yeah.
So, I'm
Yeah.
just so busy that, like,
Yeah.
professional stuff, I do better with
Yeah.
I check it, like, once every probably month or 2
Yeah.
kinda thing. I'm like, "Oh, I need to get in here," and then direct people where they need to go.
And because
So
you have a pretty big following on social media, so I know from my wife's account that I'm like, especially when a post goes viral, I'm like, oh, I can't even keep track of the amount of like
yeah.
messages that comes in and followers and stuff. So I'm like, I don't know how you keep track of it. Like, 'cause it's like a bottomless pit of comments and messages and DMs and stuff.
Yeah.
So now I feel you on that.
Mm.
So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. I love learning about your art and everything else. I just think
Yeah.
it's such a cool piece for people to be able to remember their climbs or just the places that they hiked or something for their home or whatever. So I wanted to get
Totally.
to take a couple more minutes and just kind of get to know you a little bit for everybody. So first question I ask everybody all the time is, what's your favorite national park?
Oh, gall. Um, Great question. So, I'm only, like, in May on a probably, like, 45 minutes north of Yellowstone,
Uh-huh.
where I'm at, and, like, Yellowstone in the winter when most of the are closed is
Yeah.
pretty spectacular. Like, that's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. There's almost nobody there if you're willing to do kind of the winter thing, so that's hard to beat for sure. I've spent a lot of time in Mount Rainier as a climber
Yeah.
and have climbed Mount Rainier. That one's hard to beat. I think one of the national parks I was by far the most surprised by of how much I enjoyed was Carlsbad Caverns.
Really?
So,
Okay.
yeah, that was a good one. So, it's hard to pick,
Yeah.
honestly, because 'cause I've been to a few, but
Yeah.
I spent the most time in Rainier and Yellowstone for
Okay,
sure.
awesome. I think Rainier, I just did the Wonderland Trail like 2 years ago with a buddy of mine.
Oh, nice. I've
And I
never
was
done the
like,
Wonderland Trail.
oh, we got
Cool.
the
I've always
permit and
wanted
I was
to.
like, let's go for it, dude. And it was
Yeah.
awesome. I didn't climb the mountain like you did, but
Yeah.
I walked around it. I did the lazy way. I walked around it.
No,
Um,
I don't know if that's lazy. This is different.
all right. Next question is tent, hammock, or cowboy camping?
Oof. Tent.
Tent.
I'm not a big fan of bugs.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I hear you.
So,
It's that some people like the walls just because they feel like things are not going to be around them, but I can't stand
right.
the bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Next question is, what's your favorite trail snack you've ever tried, or what's your go-to trail
Oh,
snack?
so most of my time in the mountains I spend a lot of time in the mountains in the winter,
Yeah,
and Nerds gummy clusters, the best. Doesn't matter if it's hot, doesn't matter if
yeah,
it's cold. You can drop them on the ground, you can pick them up. They're best in all weather, all
yeah,
forms, and I want them all the time.
yes,
Like, that's half the problem is, like, when you're doing something hard, I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, I definitely don't wanna try to eat this like mealy apple or this random protein bar. That doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Nerd gummy clusters, I always
Yeah.
want them. Hmm.
That's my number one answer whenever I ask that question. And
Yeah.
somebody
Hmm.
told me one time, they were like, no, you need to do like certain types of nuts and stuff. So, and I was like, oh, I love nutrition, but I also love
Right.
Nerds gummy
You're
clusters on the
like
trail. So
peanuts
yeah,
or nerd gummy
yeah,
clusters.
I'll take sugar all day long. All right. So
Yeah.
kind of the flip side of that, what's your least favorite / worst trail snack that you've ever tried?
Oh, oh, golf. Honestly, I really struggle with oatmeal. Like I can kind
Okay.
of sometimes eat oatmeal at home, but I feel like, and I say it's not necessarily a trail snack, but
Yeah.
it's the one thing that when we're like mountaineering or we're out like backpacking
Yeah.
and like I wake up in the morning and it's like it'll make me gag
Yeah.
for sure
Yeah.
and not into it in all forms. People are like, "Oh, you got to get like the steel cut oats
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
put apples and peanut butter." Nope, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. That's my favorite snack. So it was just
Okay,
kind of
there you
ruined it
go.
for me. It's okay.
I
um, all right. Next question. It's a business question, but what's the biggest splurge you've ever made for your business?
Oh, well, my husband and I did just buy a house, and one of the big parts of buying this house was it has a detached garage, and it's
Oh,
going to become the
nice.
art studio. So, buying a home with a detached garage was a big
Yeah.
splurge,
That's awesome.
and a big part of it was so I could have a big art studio,
Yeah.
and it's a work in progress. So, hopefully someday I'll be able to do like a beautiful art studio
Yeah.
social media tour, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait to
gotta
see
get the
that.
house livable and then we'll get to the
Yeah.
studio. So
You need to wrap all the walls in rope. Just do one massive art
yeah,
piece.
that's kind of the plan
So
right now because
that's
I
crazy.
it's totally like a big part of my business has is people donating their rope to
Yeah.
me so it doesn't go in the trash.
Yeah.
And I have so much rope now that it's like it's almost gonna become an art piece in itself of just having rope stored in
Yeah.
the studio. So
That's
I'm
cool.
I'm so excited to
Yeah.
get there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right. Next question is, if you could collab with any brand or anybody, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I feel like so I don't in the climbing world there's a amazing nonprofit called the Access Fund
Uh-huh.
and they do t-shirts that benefit that they can get, money obviously and then work with
Yeah.
different companies and land and helping keep public spaces open for climbers and trails open. And they do kind of an annual t-shirt art thing every year. And I'd love to be able to design something for the Access Fund to
Yeah.
help them get some money. So
That's
I'd
cool.
love to work with an awesome nonprofit to hopefully help keep spaces open for people to get outside and enjoy wild spaces. So
That's great. It's unselfish right there. That's cool.
trying to be.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. Well, I again, Katie, I really appreciate you being on and taking the time. And for everybody who's listening, I know it was a little different kind of episode, but I think in the outdoor space, there's so many different facets of running a business, whether it's a product or a service. In your case, creating art and everything else that people can have those memories for the things that they did in the outdoors. Because I have so many times I go on a trip and I have like shoes on my back wall here that I don't want to throw away. One, it looks cool for the backdrop, but I also don't want to throw away because
Right.
I'm like, oh, I remember the miles I put on these
Yes,
shoes, or I have trekking poles that
exactly.
I'm like, they're broken. I keep fixing them because I'm like, oh, I remember how it got me through this and everything else. So I think it's the same
Yep.
thing with the rope and stuff. So now that I'm into climbing just a little bit, and I'm gonna send your info to a friend of mine who just opened a big climbing gym about an hour away. Um,
Cool.
and my daughter's actually living with them while she's in school. Um, and so I'm gonna send it to him. Hopefully he'll get something from you and get it put in the gym and stuff. But once I have enough rope of memories, I'll probably get it before then. But once I have some rope and some memories, I'm gonna
Yeah,
definitely reach out to having you make me something probably half dome looking because
totally.
my daughter and I did Half Dome before, and then we've hiked
So
every time we're in
cool.
Yosemite. That's our uh,
Yeah,
favorite
I
part of it.
love
So,
that.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and like you're saying, like if people want to do a rope piece and include their own ropes, great. They don't have to have their
Yeah.
own ropes, whatever. I've done literally everything you can imagine for
Yeah.
the most part. So, but yeah, thank you so much for having me and letting me kind of share the love of climbing rope art.
Yeah. No, thank you, and enjoy the new studio, and I can't wait to see it. And everybody, thank you again
Thank
for
you.
listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, Katie.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.